If you hold 10 Bitcoin, when can you retire? This is a question many Bitcoin holders want to know. Of course, it will depend on the future price of Bitcoin, what other assets you have in your portfolio, how much you plan to spend during your retirement, and much more. But let's run through some hypothetical scenarios with this new retirement calculator to try to estimate how soon you can retire if you hold 10 Bitcoin. This is not financial advice, and all scenarios are hypothetical and for illustrative purposes. Please don't make any investments or decline to make any investments based on this video unless you have first spoken to your financial advisor. All of the Bitcoin price models used here will eventually be broken, but let's take a look. Okay, so this is a Bitcoin retirement calculator. Let's take a look at some hypotheticals. So for this example, I have it set to the current age of 40. The age that we plan to retire would be age 50. We also expect to live to age 80. For current balances, meaning what is our current wealth, we'll set a pretty simple portfolio where there are $0 in stocks, $0 in bonds, and 10 Bitcoin today. For this simplistic example, we're going to assume that while we're still working, we're actually going to save $0 of new wealth, whether that's stocks, bonds, or Bitcoin. We're also going to assume that we have no existing retirement accounts for simplicity. Okay, so for this example, since we're only looking at Bitcoin, or we only have Bitcoin in our portfolio for the sake of argument, let's assume a hypothetical 10% compound annual growth rate in perpetuity. Under this example, we also assume there is $30,000 worth of other income at retirement. This could be Social Security that you've been contributing to for many years. Then we have expected expenses. Let's say we want to spend $100,000 per year at retirement, and that's in today's dollars. So over time, this will adjust for inflation. Given all of these inputs and assumptions, if you have 10 Bitcoin in your portfolio, you may have enough to retire at age 50. As you can see, you have 10 Bitcoin at retirement, which makes sense. That's what we have saved today in this example. Our projected balance at retirement would be 2.5 million, and our balance at death would be 16.3 million. That's pretty reasonable, assuming significant compounding over the next 40 years. But let's adjust this. Let's use the power law model as a hypothetical. This kind of changes the results. Now our balance at retirement is 10.8 million, and we're actually able to spend $134,000 per year, inflation adjusted, each year after that at retirement. We also have a pretty massive balance at death. But let's go back and change our assumptions again. Let's see if we could retire now, assuming the power law model. As you can see, adjusting the age slider, the balance at retirement would be slightly less than 1 million. But if you assume the high diminishing compound annual growth rate from the power law model, then you could potentially retire today. But let's go back to the custom fixed compound annual growth rate and see what the compound annual growth rate needs to be in order to sustainably retire today. Adjusting the slider, it looks like a 13% compound annual growth rate over the next 40 years would be enough to enable us to retire today. That was interesting, and you can see how changing the assumptions and inputs can drastically change the calculations. Anyone can play around with this free calculator on unchained.com/calculator. I helped build it, so if you have any feedback on it, let me know. Thanks for watching, everyone, and see you next time.